Hello there and welcome back to Utility Sports. In today's video, we do have a fun one. It is NFL pick'em and predictions for week 15. There's a lot, kind of riding on this week in terms of playoff implications, seeding. So there's a lot to cover in today's video. If you are new, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more NFL content. And when we look at the actual pick'em records, Sheldon was able to gain some ground on me this week. He picked up 2 more games and now it's just an 8-game difference here. So very, very much in contention here for Sheldon. Now, taking a look at the Thursday night game, this is where it all starts. This is where you're going to see some variation in the pick'em. And I look at the San Francisco 49ers as a tough one to try to figure out here because they have been on such a roll recently. The Deebo Samuel injury definitely is a game changer, in my opinion. However, I still end up going with them on the road against Seattle. Seattle coming off of a very tough loss against Carolina, and that's what makes it so difficult is them losing Deebo Samuel and them having to go on the road to Seattle is a big, tall task to fill. However, I still believe with the role that they've been on, this offense is clicking. This defense has been outstanding all season long, and we saw a little bit of hiccups from the Seahawks. I think that's an opportunity still to take a game on the road against a divisional opponent. Now, if we take a look at the Sunday slate, starting off with the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Minnesota Vikings, this was a consensus pick for us. We both like the Vikings a lot, and I think that there's no secret that the defense is a massive issue. However, the Indianapolis Colts have had their share of issues so far this season as well, offensively, defensively. It just hasn't clicked exactly how they thought. They were hoping to be right at the top of the AFC South, and now they find themselves in that third spot, even behind Jacksonville. They have to go on the road to Minnesota and play a very tough team, especially offensively. Minnesota's going to throw a lot of different looks at you. Justin Jefferson, put a safety on him or not for help, it doesn't do a lot of good, and Detroit definitely struggled with them this past week. However, the Vikings still lost to the Lions on the road. But once again, here, I think that the Minnesota Vikings should get the job done against the Colts. The next game is the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Cleveland Browns. We do split once again. I ended up going with the Browns here, who are definitely healthier. And with the Baltimore Ravens, there's injury concerns. This team is facing some of those issues they had, last year. A lot of injuries are starting to pile up late on in the season. And Cleveland is just in a position here where after a couple of weeks of Deshaun Watson, hopefully they're able to iron out the kinks just a little bit more, and they are at home, so that is working in their favor. Once again, this is a split decision, so we are going to have some major variation this week in the pick'em records. The next one here is the Miami Dolphins heading into Buffalo, taking on the Bills. I opt to go with the home team. Sheldon opts to go with the Dolphins as the away team. This was a tough game to project because I think the Dolphins throw a lot of different looks at you. Offensively, they're so tough to stop, but Buffalo is really, really good defensively. They make a lot of plays. They do a lot of the things right. Leslie Frazier has a good defensive unit there. Overall, it's tough to stop the Dolphins, but I think if there is a team to do it, I think the Bills are right there. Next game is the Atlanta Falcons taking on the New Orleans Saints. And if you remember, this was an absolute wild one the first time that these guys had played, which I believe was week 1. The Atlanta Falcons ended up losing that one. The Saints came storming back in that fourth quarter. And I think that the Saints can get the job done at home here. Once again, New Orleans is a team that's tough to project. Definitely have had their fair share of struggles. But at the end of the day, I think this is a very winnable game for New Orleans. Atlanta's trying to stay in the playoff hunt. They need this one way more than New Orleans does, but at the end of the day, I'm not exactly sure if Atlanta's going to be able to get the job done. You're going to be seeing Desmond Ridder in this one. Who knows? There could be some rookie mistakes against a defense that's actually had, their fair share of issues so far this year, which is surprising. One of the better defensive units, I thought, heading into the season. The following game here is Pittsburgh and Carolina. We opt to both go with the Panthers, and this has not been a trend that has been very common for me, just because I haven't believed in what the Panthers have been all season long, but Pittsburgh is sputtering. They are having issues. They had the Kenny Pickett concussion. They were close with Baltimore, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, I just don't know what to make of the Steelers at this point in the season. You feel like they would be able to pick up some later wins, but I don't know. This team is not the Steelers of old. Mike Tomlin's done a really good job with this team historically, but this one, there's a lot of fundamental issues, especially with that offensive line. So I do have some major question marks. Next game, Philadelphia and Chicago. Pretty easy one for us here. Philadelphia is absolutely rolling. Chicago is starting to, show its ugly head in terms of some of the deficiencies on the roster, talent deficiencies. But Justin Fields is awesome. So he's going to be a lot of fun to watch in this one. But Philadelphia is such a complete team that I think that they get the job done on the road against the Bears once again. Chicago is going to definitely put up a fight. They're going to put up some points, but Philadelphia is going to be too much to handle for Chicago's defense. Next one, Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Houston Texans. Chiefs sweated out against Denver, who's been having a lot of issues this year. Houston's, pass defense has been good, and I mean really, really good so far this year. I've been pleasantly surprised out of what I've seen from their defensive unit holistically, and I think Kansas City is they're too talented, too tough, and too versed in what they have going offensively. I don't see the Texans being able to keep up. Their offense is definitely, outside of Dameon Pierce, there's a lot of question marks across the board, unfortunately, for this team. I just don't see them getting the job done. The following game, we have Dallas taking on Jacksonville. You see, you got a picture of Sheldon there. I was hoping he was going to be on for our pick'em for him to be able to see this live. But anyway, he ends up clowning himself and going with Jacksonville. I don't see this being the outcome. I really don't. Dallas is just too good defensively. They're gonna do a lot of different things to confuse Trevor Lawrence. The Jags aren't going to be able to handle Dallas's pass rush. Once again, a lot of things working against Jacksonville. A lot of credit to them, though, and their win here. I think that the confidence is starting to build for Trevor Lawrence. You saw against Tennessee how that game played out. Trevor Lawrence was absolutely awesome in that one, but he picks the Jags. He's been riding with them. So once again, I think that you got to give him credit for some of his Jags wins that he's picked this year, but also to counter that, he's had some bad losses riding with this team. So I was going to clown him here with his Dallas attire, but it's unfortunate that he's not here to witness. So once again, go ahead, put in the chat, Sheldon is a Cowboys fan. Let's see it. I want to see a lot of those comments. So when he checks them later, he is well aware. Next game, Detroit and the New York Jets. I was so close to picking the Jets at home here. However, I just don't know what it's going to look like. Had Mike White been a for sure that he was going to play, I know they had taken him to the hospital to check on some internal bleeding potentially. I would have went with the Jets, but the lines are so hot right now. They just knocked out Minnesota. Their offense is rolling. Their defense, Aaron Glenn has made some adjustments, therefore making this a much tougher decision. So I end up going with Detroit because I like what I've been seeing out of them so far in the recent stretch. Following game, Arizona and Denver. Russell Wilson likely I think he's going to be ruled out this upcoming week due to his concussion. Brett Rypien, I don't see that being a very good outcome despite Denver's defense being so good. Brett Rypien, and then you look at Latavius Murray. That doesn't get me super excited for their offense. Arizona's going to have to get the job done. They're going to have to find some points, but it's not going to take much, I don't think, to really overcome Denver's offense. And I'm not trying to knock Denver here, but at the end of the day, I just don't see this really working out in their favor. Despite them being at home, Arizona, this is one of the few times I'm going to take the Cards this season. Now we got New England versus Las Vegas. You have Josh McDaniels going against his former team. Patriots on the road here. I think it's pretty interesting how this Raiders season has played out. Both teams are vying for a wild card spot. New England is going to have to, have Josh McDaniels' number here, or vice versa. Maybe Josh McDaniels has got this New England team, figured out. Definitely going to be a chess match here, and I think we're going to see some different looks that we haven't seen all season long from both of these teams. Bill Belichick loves to throw a little bit of wrinkles against his former coaches, and he's done very well against guys he had brought up, whether they were players or actual members of his staff as opposing coaches. He's done very, very well against some of those guys. So that's the reason I take New England here, despite them being on the road. I like the Patriots in this one. And now we get to a matchup between the Tennessee Titans and the LA Chargers. Looking at the Tennessee Titans coming off of a tough loss against Jacksonville, which they struggled mightily to stop the pass. Zay Jones and Evan Ingram both had nice days for Jacksonville, and Tennessee was definitely losing the turnover margin as well. That is something that you do not want to see if you are a Titans fan. Losing the turnover battle never bodes well for this team, or quite frankly, any other team. So looking at the LA Chargers, I think there's an opportunity for them to exploit some things through the air. Definitely going to be looking to have a big day from Keenan Allen. And Bull Shell and I are projecting the Chargers to win this game. It's going to be a close matchup, don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, I think the Chargers are going to be able to get the job done. And now we follow that up with Cincinnati and Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is just not able to put things together, really. They're not able to maintain drives. They're not able to finish drives. They've had a lot of struggles defensively, and that is not something we're accustomed to seeing. We've seen some really, really good quality defensive units from Tampa Bay over the last couple of seasons, but this year, definitely a few more struggles for sure. Cincinnati is absolutely rolling. This is a team that, after struggling mightily to start the season, they have recovered very nicely. There was a lot of rumblings about the offensive line issues and Joe Burrow just not looking as good. Well, that's all out the window because Joe Burrow has turned into a different breed. This guy is just built different. He knows how to win. He's done a great job with this team. Jamar Chase is an absolute stud. T. Higgins is another absolute monster. This team is loaded full of playmakers, especially on the offensive side of the football. And I expect them to get the job done despite them going on the road and having to play Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. I just don't have the utmost confidence in this Bucs team. And, Sheldon doesn't either, which is surprising because we've had a lot of confidence with this group for a long time, but now it's starting to waver a little bit. Next game here is a Sunday night prime time. We have the Commanders taking on the Giants. And with the Washington Commanders, man, I mean, they just find ways to win football games. It might not be the prettiest brand of football you've ever seen, but Taylor Heineke is gritty. He has definitely elevated the play of his teammates, not necessarily by his performance, but his energy that he's brought to the organization when he is starting. It's just a different vibe than when Carson Wentz was the starter. Unfortunately for Carson Wentz, Taylor Heineke caught some fire. This Washington team is definitely going to disrupt the Giants' front, their offensive line here. They're going to force the New York Giants to make a lot of plays on the perimeter, which they just don't have that level of playmaker out there right now. Saquon's been, he's a good player, but at the wide receiver position, other guys have to step up. They've had some injuries, but there needs to be a level of step up there for the Giants in that wide receiver room to make some plays. I don't see it happening on a regular basis in this game. And I think the Commanders walk away with the victory on primetime. And finally, we got the LA Rams taking on the Green Bay Packers. And the Packers are a team that very well could catch some fire. Now, I am a little wary in saying so, but I mean, the Packers are a talented team. They got a talented offense. They have some playmakers on defense, but the Rams, they caught a little lightning in the bottle last week. They looked dead in the water against the Raiders. They were able to make that comeback with the long drive from Baker Mayfield. I just don't see that happening again against this Packers unit. Overall, Christian Watson, it might be followed by Jalen Ramsey. Who knows? Because Watson has been on an absolute tear week after week here, and he's looking like the real deal at the wide receiver position. Aaron Rodgers is starting to build some rapport with them, and I see that being the case here for the Packers to walk out with a victory. Thanks again for tuning in. Hopefully you did enjoy the content. Subscribe if you are new to the channel so you don't miss out on any more NFL content. We produce mock drafts, pick 'em and predictions, a lot of other things covering the NFL. So I would appreciate if you hit that subscribe button. And once again, let me know in the comment section below, who is your favorite team? And did I get some of these picks wrong? I want to hear all about it in that comment section. Look forward to chatting with you guys, and we will catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.